All right, today we're going to get into something really interesting. It's a case study that gets right to the heart of a huge question in crypto. Can a token that starts out with that meme energy actually become something you can use in the real world? We're going to take a look at a specific token called Wiki Cat and its pretty ambitious plan to do just that.
You know, when you hear meme coin, what comes to mind? For most people, it's internet jokes, maybe some wild speculation. And let's be real, for a lot of them, that's pretty much it. But what if some of them are trying to be more than that? What if the goal is to build something you could actually use, like in your day-to-day life? That's the big question we're digging into today.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand the bigger picture here, we've got to start with the token that's at the center of this whole story.
So first things first, what exactly is Wiki Cat, or WKC? Well, looking at how it's described, it wasn't just launched to be another coin people trade back and forth. It was actually designed as a tutorial token. The whole idea was to create something inside a larger community, that's the SMC DAO, which is basically a group where members get to vote on decisions to help new folks learn the ropes of crypto. So right from the get-go, the focus was meant to be on education and community, not just a quick flip.
And WKC isn't just floating out there on its own. It's really one piece of a bigger puzzle. You can see it's part of this whole ecosystem. You've got the SMC DAO for that community governance we talked about, something called Penny Wallet for things like social giveaways, and SMC Stats for keeping track of analytics. But the piece we're really going to focus on today is Peniremit. That's their tool designed to connect all this crypto stuff to actual real-world spending. This tells you there's a bigger strategy happening here.
Now, to really get why a project like Peniremit even exists, we need to zoom out for a second and look at a huge challenge. And this isn't just a Wiki Cat problem. It's something that faces pretty much every cryptocurrency out there. And it really boils down to something super simple. For most crypto assets, you can do two things. You can hold on to it, hoping the value goes up, or you can trade it. But walking into a store to buy a cup of coffee with it, yeah, that's still not really a thing for most of them. There's this massive gap between owning a digital asset and actually being able to use it like digital money. And this slide shows you exactly why. I mean, look at this process. It's so clunky. If you want to use some of your crypto to buy something, you have to go through all these steps. You got to move your tokens to an exchange, then sell them for regular money like dollars, then withdraw that money to your bank account, and only then can you finally spend it with your card. Every single step takes time and usually costs you money and fees. It's just slow and inefficient, and it's a huge reason crypto isn't used for everyday stuff. So that's the problem, right? How do you fix that clunky, multi-step process? Well, this is where the strategy for Wiki Cat starts to come into focus, with a service they built called Peniremit. And here's their mission statement, straight from their own materials. Peniremit bridges the gap between crypto and real-world spending, making digital assets instantly usable for everyday needs. The goal couldn't be clearer. They want to build that missing bridge to make using your crypto for everyday things just as easy as using the money in your bank.
And we're not just talking about vague ideas here. They're aiming for really specific, tangible uses. Things like paying your phone bill, your electricity, or your TV subscription, all directly with crypto. The plan also includes supporting lots of different tokens, not just WKC, and even giving local businesses the tools they need to start accepting crypto payments themselves.
Another huge area of focus for them is international money transfers, remittance. This is a really big deal, especially for people in places like Africa and Asia, where using traditional services to send money home can be super slow and expensive. What Peniremit is claiming here is a massive improvement. They're talking about cutting down transfer times from days to just a few seconds and slashing the fees. I mean, if they can actually pull that off, that's a seriously powerful use case.
Okay, so we've got this platform that's designed to make crypto spendable. But what does that really mean for a token like Wiki Cat? Well, this gets us to the most important word in this entire conversation, utility.
So what is utility when we talk about crypto? Honestly, it's everything. It's what separates an asset that you just hold and hope goes up in value from a tool that actually has a function. Utility just means you can do something with it. You can stake it, you can vote with it, or in this case, you can spend it.
And that right there is the whole game plan. By plugging WKC into the Peniremit system, the goal is to give the token a job. It stops being just a ticker symbol on an exchange and becomes something that its holders could, in theory, use to pay for real stuff. This is that jump from just being speculative to having a real application.
And building this payment system isn't the only thing they're doing.
Take their partnership with Xend Finance, for instance. This is another great example of the strategy. The whole point was to let people in Nigeria buy WKC directly with their own currency, the Naira. Now that's a really big deal because it knocks down a huge barrier for new users, and it shows they're really pushing for adoption in the African market.
But you know, having a good idea and a clear plan is one thing. Actually making it work in the real world is a whole different ballgame, and it's incredibly tough. So let's be balanced here and look at both the potential upside and the very real risks. Okay, so on one hand, the potential is pretty clear. If this actually works, it could bring in more users, give the token a genuine use case, and make the whole ecosystem stronger. But the risks are just as big. I mean, number one is always going to be volatility, the price swings. Then you have to ask, will people even use it? Low user uptake could kill the project. And of course, the tech itself has to be flawless and secure. Any failure on that front could be a disaster.
Yeah, let's zoom in on that volatility risk because this is the real make-or-break issue. Peniremit has this feature called a floating balance. Basically what that means is your spending power is tied directly to the token's price at that exact moment. So let's say you have $100 worth of WKC ready to pay some bills. If the market suddenly dips 20%, poof, you now only have $80 to spend. Now, the opposite could happen, sure, but that risk of your money shrinking overnight, that's a huge mental hurdle for most people to get over for everyday spending.
So this is the fundamental trade-off, right? This is the core challenge for any project trying to do something like this. Is the convenience of paying directly with your crypto wallet, is that enough to make people stomach the risk that their balance could drop before they even get to spend it? That really is the billion-dollar question.
And this all brings us to one final, much bigger question. What really is the difference between a digital asset and a digital currency? See, an asset is something you own. A currency is something you use. The whole journey of a project like Wiki Cat with a tool like Peniremit is really an attempt to cross that very bridge. And whether they or anyone else can actually succeed, well, that's going to tell us a whole lot about where this entire space is headed.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this kind of real-world utility is the key for tokens to survive long-term, or is that volatility risk just too big of a problem for everyday payments? We genuinely love to hear what you think down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in.